I first met Peter Garrett in August of 2018. I was pretty active on Facebook during that time and commented on a lot of pages, mostly those geared towards Christian based faith pages. I'm divorced and in my early 50s. I've been single for a couple of years now and wasn't looking for a relationship. One day, while commenting on my favorite Christian faith page on Facebook, this man named Peter replied to my comment and on a Christian inspirational quote that I had written on. You know the typical ones: a sunset beach photo with Christian words of hope. Peter replied that he liked my comment and he said, "God bless you." I replied to this comment and said the same to him and to have a blessed weekend as it was a Friday. Within seconds of replying, I found Peter in my messenger. He asked me how I was doing. You know, the typical chatter stuff. He then told me he was 46 and in the Army as a sergeant. I thanked him for his service and told him I would pray for him as he was deployed to Syria on a secret mission. I did find it strange. He told me, a stranger, he was on a quote, secret mission, but I thought maybe he trusted me being a Christian lady and felt it was safe to confide in me. He then went on to tell me his wife died of cancer 3 years ago and he had a 10-year-old son named Max. I told him I too was divorced, but my daughter was in her 20s. He asked some more questions about myself. Did I live alone? What did I do for a living? Have I ever chatted with or had any family in the military? I told him I did live alone. I work as an office admin for a doctor's office, and that no, I've chatted with people online, but not any man and not any in the military, and that no, my family was not affiliated with the military. I thought the questions were innocent enough. The military one threw me off guard, but then I thought he was asking if I had any family in the military because he wanted to see if maybe he knew them or they knew him or where he was stationed, etc. He then went on to quote me various Bible verses and told me he prays for his safety every night and that they are camped just outside of Homs, Syria. We chatted for maybe an hour. I told him I had to go. I had things to do before nightfall and I hoped that he would stay safe. I logged out, and as I did, I saw a message about him asking me to download Hangouts. I didn't reply and just went out about my night and had logged off. I didn't log back into Facebook until Saturday. When I did, he had left me several messages, photos of what I thought was himself on deployment. He sent about 5 photos of this man in a military uniform next to a tank, and one of him in the barracks with shorts on listening to music. I later discovered they were stolen pictures of a soldier named Roger Good. Apparently, scammers use his photos a lot. He then had left a message asking me if I had photos and if I used Hangouts, as he was not always on Facebook due to security reasons, and Hangouts was military approved for chatting. I thought he was a handsome man, so I sent him a couple pics of myself, one at my office birthday party that we had last week, and one of me at home on my back deck enjoying the sun. I have a pool, so you could see this in the background of my photo. I told him I'd never heard of Hangouts, and he explained to me that it was an app and explained how to download it. So, I stupidly did. We started chatting on Hangouts, and I never thought this guy would go any further than a casual chat. I felt for this soldier and felt sorry for him being deployed and away from his son. I asked him during our chat where his son was while he was deployed since his wife had passed. He said his son Max stayed with a good family friend in Florida while he was deployed, and he had no one to care for him, and that he hoped he would find a loving woman to accept him and his son. I was taken back by this a bit. I wasn't looking for a relationship, so I wasn't sure why he threw his child into my life saying he needed a mother. I told him I hope he finds it and I'll pray for him. For the next few weeks, we casually chatted. Normally, he would be online late, so our chats were limited during the week, and I cut off chatting at 11 p.m. as I worked early. However, Friday and Saturday nights, sometimes we chatted into the wee hours of the morning. He said, really, It was the only time he would be free to chat as he was always on patrol. One morning, before work, we did chat, around 7 a.m. my time, but he said he had to go on patrol. Anytime I tried for a morning or afternoon chat, he said he couldn't, but always late at night in the wee hours of the morning, he was free. I asked him to do a video chat once. I even dialed the video button on Hangouts, but he told me it's forbidden due to security reasons. Instead, he sent me another photo of this man laying on a cot listening to music on a phone. I told him that music, especially my favorite Christian bands, are very soothing during stressful times. I even sent him YouTube links to some of my favorite Christian bands. He said he would love to listen, but he needed an iTunes card to continue using his phone, and due to us talking so often, he used up all of his credits. I had never heard of this kind of card, and he asked me if I could get him a $50 iTunes card. I felt bad that he used all his time to talk to me, and I thought an iTunes card was like a prepaid phone card to give him minutes. I didn't understand how they worked. So, the next day, I bought him one and sent him a photo of the back of the card. We continued chatting. Another week went by, and he asked for more personal questions. How much do I make? Do I own my own home? And intimate questions about sex and the last time I'd been with a man. Well, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel uncomfortable either. I found myself attracted to him. He kept sending me picture after picture, even one writing my name on paper with a heart and holding it up for a photo, which I later found out was photoshopped. Days and nights were spent talking. I found myself up late at night texting via Hangouts, losing sleep for work. I worried about his safety and getting killed in such a dangerous place. He told me some of his guys had been shot and some killed from the terrorists. I felt myself falling in love with this man. He wrote me poems, sent me songs, did so many nice and kind things like virtual cards and hugs, saying good morning, be safe. He then told me he loved me. During these weeks, he'd asked me a few times for $50 iTunes cards and I sent them. He seemed to fill an empty void in my life. I joked with him that maybe we could meet sometime when he comes home, which he said he was due home in a few months. I wasn't sure it would lead to anything, but I thought, why not? We could meet someplace public and see if the attraction is the same online and in person. He then said he could take a leave, but he would have to apply for it through the Army. I told him to do so, and I could take a week vacation from work and we could meet. He said he had a home in Florida and I live in Virginia, so it wouldn't be too far for me to drive there, get a hotel, and for us to meet somewhere. He insisted I stay with him and Max, but I told him it's too soon for that. He told Max about me via email, and he's excited to meet his new mother. My eyes grew huge when I heard this. I told Peter that he shouldn't have told Max this, as I don't intend on being his mother, and even if things worked out between him and I, Max should know me as your friend for a while, until we know where things lead, and at best, in the wildest of fantasy, I would be his stepmother if, and that's a big if, things between us ever worked out. Peter became angry with me. He said I never loved him, I was a game player. I was shocked and I told him no, that normal people don't become parents to someone's child right away. He then told me Max cries every night for a new mother and is so sad since she had died. I felt terrible for his son and for Peter, but truly, it's not my place to become his mother or come into his life so soon. I told Peter I was sorry, and he was very upset. He then said he was going on patrol and he would talk to me later. I felt bad, but I was also concerned that this man needs to make me the mother of a child that I've never met. I've never even met Peter. A few days went by, and Peter didn't message me. I sent him several messages, and he did not respond. Finally, he said, and he asked me if I was serious about this relationship. I told him I wanted to meet him, and once we meet, we could see how things go and talk about a future. He then told me he would put in for his leave, but I had to request it. I had no understanding of how the military works, so I assumed it was all legit. He sent me a form and an email address to send the request to. He even wrote me out a request letter. I looked at the form and then filled out the request letter, which asked for my name, occupation, which bank I use, and my intentions with Peter, as well as my home address and phone number. I found this odd, but then I thought, well, it's the government, right? I sent it all in via email to a USA.com email address, which I later found out was just a free emailer service like Gmail, but at the time I thought it was an official military email address. Within half an hour, I received an email from Staff Commander Richard Johnson. He said he accepted my letter and sent a form which indicated the payment amount for which Peter would take his leave. There was a 3-tier amount of payments. The first week, or 7 days, would be $500. 2 weeks, or 14 days, would be $1,000, and so on, and the amount grew the longer time he took a leave. The payment would have to be made to the nearest Army agent office, which, since he was in Syria, the closest would be Nigeria, where his deployment port is. I knew absolutely nothing about scammers and scams like this. The document I thought was real. I told Peter that the military wrote back and asked him about the payment and if he would be making it. He told me that since he's deployed, he has no access to his bank account and asked me if I would pay for his leave. He then said he would pay me back as soon as we met. I asked him how long did he want to visit, and he said that was up to me. He then told me Max felt unwell and was missing his daddy. I felt so sad for his son, which then sent me photos of a crying boy and said that was Max, and that it was taken recently after Max emailed his dad asking him to come home. My heart sank. I told Peter I would want him home for 3 weeks, which would be $1,500. It was a lot of money to me, but I wanted him to see his son and for us to meet. So, the next morning, I Western Unioned $1,500 to the so-called military leave agent in Nigeria. Once sent, I went to work and awaited an email from the agent confirming his leave and the date that he would be here. I heard nothing most of the day. Then, a coworker asked me what was wrong as I was acting like I was on edge all day and constantly checking my email, checking my phone, something I normally wouldn't do at work. I then confided in this coworker and told her about Peter. I had told no one about him because I didn't want to brag about this great man and things not work out and I look foolish. The look on her face was of horror. She asked to see the leave document and information, so I shared it with her and she told me it's a scam. She then took me to Scamming Scammers Action Facebook page and showed me how the document was fake, and we even found Rogers Goods photos in their online albums. I then inboxed the page and it was confirmed for me it was a scam. I felt so stupid and angry. I confronted Peter, who denied it all. He claimed terrorists had stolen his photos and he was in hiding. He then confessed to me he was not the man in the picture. Because of his military job, he had to hide who he was. He then sent me photos of another man and said that was him. I Googled the photos and found out they were stolen pictures of Aaron Ramos, so this idiot continued to lie to me. I ended up uninstalling Hangouts and marking his email as spam. I blocked him on all apps. After doing so, I started getting phone calls from Nigerian phone numbers, mostly Hangout calls. Some were just calls in the middle of the night, saying they knew who I was and saying things to scare me. I ended up changing my phone number. I deactivated my Facebook page for a few months before reactivating and changing my profile picture and abbreviating my name. I still get friend requests from fake soldier profiles, but I know they're not real. I feel stupid, foolish, and silly, but over time, I've learned I'm not alone in being a victim, and I have no reason to be ashamed. These scammers are horrible people. Thank you for letting me share my experience.